Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Chef Fernando Mojica with LearnToCook.com. Today we're going to prepare a tomato soup. We're going to heat up the pat, we're going to heat up the oil and the butter. You want to do this over medium heat so that the butter doesn't brown, because you want the butter melted, but you don't want it to start browning, because that's just going to throw off the flavor once we do the rest of the soup, okay? So we're going to sweat the onions, the carrots, and the celery. So at this point, once it's sweating, what I like to do is I like to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. I like to build flavors as we cook. A lot of people season it once you're finished. The issue I find with that is that once you're done, it's a one-time shot to get the seasoning right. So if you season the vegetables, now it's going to start building that flavor up. Once you add the next ingredient, you season again. So you kind of work your way up to that perfect seasoning. Again, I just like to do it that way. It's a little bit easier. I think it's a little bit better. You control the seasoning better. Maybe by the time you actually finish cooking, you don't need to add any more salt, any more pepper, because you've already developed all those flavors. So once we added this, again, nice and sweat. Once the vegetables are sweat, and what we're going to do is going to deglaze the pan with the tomato juice. What's deglazing? Deglazing is basically adding a cold liquid to a hot pan to get whatever little residues that got stuck to the bottom of the pan. All of that is flavor. So in this case, we don't have a lot of it because, again, we only sweated the vegetables. We didn't saute them, so it shouldn't be a lot, but we're going to add the tomato juice. We're going to stir the ingredients up. Again, you want to kind of scrape the bottom of the pan to get any of that caramelization that might have developed. You're going to let that reduce for about a minute, just enough so that it's nice and, you don't want it too thick, but it's got to be a nice consistency. From there, you're going to add the crushed tomatoes. And you're going to add your Worcestershire sauce, all right? This is just going to add a little bit of a bigger flavor depth, a bigger intensity on the flavor. You don't want to overpower it, but it's just going to add a nice little bite to it at the end. You're going to bring this to a boil. So now it's boiling. I'm going to add the chicken broth. And we're going to bring that back to a boil again. And again, once it's boiling, we're going to reduce it to a simmer and going to simmer it for about 45 minutes. Okay, so at this point, we've let our tomato soups cook for, like I said, about 45 minutes. All the vegetables are cooked. The tomatoes are completely cooked. All the flavors are infused. So what we're going to do next is we're going to puree it. And then we're going to add a little bit of the cream. Now, the cream, what we've done is we warmed that up, or we scalded the cream. What that means is basically you warm it up to just before it starts boiling, but you don't want it to boil, you don't want it to burn. So you just want to warm that up so that once we add it to the soup, that's what that's going to do is going to actually, it won't break the cream, it won't dissolve all the heavy cream, and it's going to help incorporate itself into the cream. So what we're going to do is we're going to blend the soup. Now for this, we're going to use an immersion blender. Now, however, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can also use a regular blender at home, and you can just do it in batches. This just works a little bit easier, but if you don't have one, then you can use a blender. It's perfectly fine. So we're going to puree it until all the ingredients are smooth. And then the one thing you want to be careful here is when you're doing this, you don't want to pull the blender off too much, because if you pull it up too high, it's going to start splattering all over. You're going to burn yourself, and you're going to get a big mess all over the table. So just want to make sure that you are careful when you're doing this so that you don't splatter, you don't burn yourself. So, and again, the final thing we're going to make is we have the warm heavy cream. So we're just going to add a little bit to adjust the consistency of the soup. Again, you want to make sure that it's warm so that when you add it, it doesn't break off as we're adding it to the hot tomato and the hot soup, all right? So you add enough so that the consistency of the soup is perfect. And then once that's ready, whisk it through, make sure that it's nice and incorporated. The color is going to change a little bit. Of course, the more cream you add to it, the lighter the color is going to get. So, and then of course the thinner the soup is going to get. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to go too thin. So once that's ready, we're going to go ahead and serve it. So we're going to go ahead and start serve it on a bowl. And as you can see, it's nice and smooth. you get some of that tomato texture, but it's, for the most part, it's very smooth. It's a very smooth soup. So we're gonna serve this soup with a little bit of crackers. What we have here is just sea salt crackers. This is gonna be a nice accompaniment to the soup. It's also gonna add a little bit of texture to it, and we're just gonna garnish it with a little bit of chopped basil and chopped parsley at the end. So once we have the soup, you can go ahead and start enjoying it. I hope you had a good time doing the soup. Again, cream of tomato soup, very simple, very easy to make, and thanks for joining us. Again, my name is Chef Fernando Mojica with LearnToCook.com, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us today at LearnToCook.com. Be sure to comment and to subscribe. Also, visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a great day, and thank you.